Our next speaker is Mr. Don Smith. It's a strange situation. His doctor is not allowing to travel at this point. However, he will be speaking with us through a speakerphone, and any questions that you have can be addressed to the speakerphone. So this may be a first for a conference. You can't get here, but the speakerphone could be just as good. I think it ought to be very interesting. Let me try to get him on the phone here.
Where's he from, Bruce?
Texas.
Texas.
He suffered a major stroke. I probably let him explain to you, what happened. But he's a very strong person. He had only a 5% chance of making it, and he pulled through, and he's a strong bugger.
I am. You have to ask him, yeah. Okay.
What we'll do is, you want to ask a question, you'll come up here and pass it on from the podium. Try to let him speak first, and we'll speak one at a time.
Hello?
Good morning, Don. How you doing? This is Bruce from Inventors Weekend.
Yes, good morning.
How's your health today?
Quite good.
Maybe you want to give a little introduction of where you've been and how your health is at this point and why you couldn't attend today.
Okay, actually I'm on the mend, and I had a major stroke about a year ago, and it pretty well wiped everything out, including my speech. And but I got speech back, and I'm except for my left hand, right hand rather, I'm in pretty good shape.
That's really good to hear, Don. Really good to hear. Do you have anything you want to start off with?
Yes, I'm sure there's some fellows there with a lot of questions, but there's some general things which we agree to talk about, like my dipole transformer generator, I believe, and why it works, and that sort of thing. So basically, if you take basic system, would be like a north-south deal, like in your Tesla coil, where you have a north-south component, and take a right angle off of that, which would be similar to the rings of Saturn, and off that you take two plates, one aluminum and one copper, and put spacers between them, and you can copy your energy directly from your Tesla coil in large amounts.
Don, when you say large amounts, you have a figure?
Well, on the experimental ones I did here, I used plasma tubes for my north-south component, and I was getting 65,000 watts off of that.
Right.
There was milliwatt in, and 65,000 watts out.
Wow, that's really incredible.
It's basically unbelievable, but what people don't allow for is the fact that in your electrical system, it's dead on arrival, so to speak. It's absorbed immediately, but the magnetic flux elements are perpetuate basically forever in great quantity, except when you have lower frequencies. So you have to run the frequency up like Tesla coil maybe, and then you bring it down into direct current from the system with the rings on it that I was talking about.
So the output is high frequency at first, and what you're doing is convert it into direct current, and then you could probably put an inverter on there, say?
Well, the north-south component is electrical, and the east-west component is your magnetic flux, which, when it's captured on those rings, changes back to electrical.
And it's based on a dipole system. Could you explain maybe the transformer and how?
Well, the invention is called dipole transformer generator. The dipole is the north-south component, and the generator part is your Tesla coil deal, and the other part, you have a generator and you have a receiver type deal, so it's a generator receiver.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Don here?
Say again, please.
I'm asking the members here if they have any questions for you.
Yes, I'd be happy to answer any question. Remember, this is extemporaneous.
Okay. Would you come up here?
How you doing? My name is Mark Whitford. I'm from Columbia, Maryland. And my question is regarding the tools that you use to measure the energy input and output.
You're concerned about whether the measurement systems are correct.
I'm concerned about two things. One is whether or not the tools that you use to measure the amount of energy that was input and output were calibrated.
Actually, I have all kinds of fancy gadgets to do that with, and I'm not one bit wrong.
Well,
I know what your concern is. You feel that I'm seeing something which is not really there.
No, I didn't say that. I'm curious about how.
It's okay to say it. I know what people think. Go ahead.
All right. Well, the question really boils down to what is the accuracy of your instrumentation. In other words, if we're talking about an accuracy of a small percentage, but you're able to compare the input and the output, and it's a significant difference. Then
when you're doing something like this on an experimental basis, there's plenty of room for error.
Right.
But the preponderance of evidence is there, and that overweighs, a few points one way or another.
Okay, so in other words, you feel that the results are overwhelmingly clear.
Yes, to someone who knows what they're looking at.
Okay. Have you published those results?
Say again, please.
Have they been published?
I'm not hearing what you're saying just now.
Have the results been published?
The results been
Published.
have they been published? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir. Have they been published?
They're in the system for the patent office, but I haven't publicly published any of them.
Okay. And do you have any designs or drawings that are available? I mean, did you submit a patent application?
Basically, as simple as I've described it here, you don't really need anything else. It sort of explains itself when you put it together. Do a simple Tesla coil, and at right angles, like the rings of Saturn, place these sideways. You have to place the plates on the ring nut deal there, and separate them so that they're not shorting out, and then measure between the two plates.
Okay, and when you measured the total energy output, or the what you claimed was the power output was 50 kilowatts, what did you use to absorb that? Did you absorb it into like a dummy load, for example?
First of all, you have to change it. It's a radio frequency, and you have to change it to pulsating DC. And once you've done that, then you can use it just like ordinary electricity.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all my questions.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have another question? Another question here? Mark, let's see who you are.
Hi, good morning, Don. My name is Greg Dunn, and I'm from near Baltimore, Maryland. And I appreciate your opportunity to chat with us here a little bit this morning. Can you hear me okay?
I'm fine. I understand you guys are having a good time there.
Yes, we have a beautiful hotel and beautiful weather and a great conference. We got a bunch of people here all perking up and sitting on the edge of their chairs here listening to you, and we thank you for this opportunity and hope everything goes well with you. I have read your book that I got a copy of, I guess, a year or two ago, and looked at that video that was produced some time ago that you had demonstrated, and we've studied your drawings and your works and your explanations quite a bit. And I'd like to ask, what is the function, and what can you describe what really happens in the spark gap?
What's really happening and why it works?
Well, specifically, I want to know about the spark gap. What does
the spark gap is a very important thing. That's why the Tesla coil thing can be part of it. You have to have the off and on component present in any situation where you're switching between magnetic and electrical flux.
So is the
If you're not switching there, you're although you're getting an electrical component which is used up almost immediately, the magnetic component has no bounds on it. It's an open system where the energy can, depending on the frequency, can travel throughout the universe. And at that point, you need a system to harvest the useful energy, which would be the magnetic flux, which when it passes an electron, it flips back, and you have an electrical component given to you, and you can have as many of these sets, duplicate sets of energy as you want. There's no limit to them.
So your concept is that the electron kind of flips between two states, or
yes, the electron flips between the magnetic and electrical impulse, and it sends out waves, and the magnetic waves are not quenchable like the electrical component is dead almost immediately. It's absorbed. But the magnetic component is not absorbed. It's either reflected or deflected. And at that point, when the magnetic component is passing, it flips additional electrons, which would go back to the electrical deal. And that way you have an endless output from the magnetic resonance, and that's why I call my devices the resonance energy methods.
Yeah, I can understand that, to get many iterations of this, you need to have it in resonance. I understand that part.
Yes, also let me tell you something else. I have copied my book in an Adobe
PDF file?
the Adobe system, and it will be available sometime shortly. I'm working on getting copies of it, CD-ROM copies.
So where will we find that when it's available?
Well, Adventures Unlimited will probably end up with it. Are you familiar with who they are?
Yes, I have seen that. That was in your book.
Yes, they're going to have several more books and things that tie into the other stuff.
Okay, great. Well, we look forward to that because I think communication is the key to the answer here.
Yes, it actually has the patent work on the dipole transformer generator. The actual patent documents are published as part of it.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have a patent application number that you will share with us yet?
The patent, I decided I didn't like the United States Patent Office, so I went offshore on that to completely around them. It's coming along nicely, but I don't want to talk about it very much, except that it's okay for me to talk about what I do, but I don't want to discuss the actual patents just yet.
Okay, certainly we can understand that. To get back to your device that was in the book, use the L1 and the L2 coils.
Okay.
Are we talking about a different device now?
I have dozens of different devices, most of which you've probably never seen.
Okay.
The dipole transformer thing I'm talking about, you've never seen it, most likely.
Okay, so that's very different than what you had published in your book then?
Yes, they all work on the same principle, however.
Okay, and that's based on this understanding of the electron and how it really functions.
Yes, and what the magnetic flux, how it differs from the electrical flux. Magnetic flux is not quenchable. It doesn't die out. It basically is unstoppable.
Okay. Now,
and each time it passes another electron, it flips it, and the energy from all of those electron flips added together ends up being a huge amount greater than what the electrical flux could provide.
Now, when the electron is sort of excited into the electrical mode, does it have to be near a wire or something to collect that?
Let me say this. Most people don't realize that every electrical device that you have, regardless of what it is or where it is, and that sort of thing, is giving out a huge amount of magnetic flux along with the electrical flux. And most people think that it's inconsequential and it doesn't really mean anything. But if you have a Gauss meter and you map the electrical flux area and then do this right angle component on it, like I was talking about, you can turn any device into a generator of electricity.
Now, does this magnetic flux have any relationship to what Bearden calls the heaviside current?
It resembles what Bearden is doing. There's another fellow from the over in Switzerland that has a deal that it also resembles, but it's not put in clear terms so you can understand it. When I describe it for the patent thing, it's in very clear terms. It's basically the same thing, but you know how Bearden can get things complicated. That's the problem there.
Yeah, we're all familiar with that one. Very much so. It takes him 70 pages to say something.
Yes, he's an absolute genius, and we owe him a great deal, and I wouldn't want to distract from him in any bit, but he actually got his thinking on this system, like I'm talking about from the guy over in Switzerland.
And what is that fellow's name?
The one in Switzerland?
Yes, sir.
It's a Mercanata group.
Mecanata?
Yeah.
Oh, Mirthanetha?
Yes, I guess. I don't know exactly how to say it.
Okay. Okay. And when do you anticipate this device that you have, kind of hitting the commercial routine?
Well, off and on, I've had an awful lot of people approach me on it, and at different times I've had things which almost gelled, and at the present time, most of my connections are overseas. They're not here in the United States. I've intentionally avoided the United States. So, commercial answer to your question, I don't really know, but it's there. It can happen any day, except that I don't know the exact sequence yet. My health situation kind of screwed things up because last September I was at the point where I had everything working exactly right, and it was already been commercial like last November instead of now. So I'm still working on it, and things look very promising, and there's nothing at all wrong with the system that I'm trying to do. It checks out in all respects.
And physically, how big would this machine be for comparable or a particular size output?
Comparable to what?
Well, if you pick a number in terms of kilowatt output, how can you...
Kilowatts, what's the potential? It depends on the electrical output of your dipole system, which we agreed that you could use a Tesla coil, so they come in all sizes.
Okay, so if you had, say, a 10 kilowatt generator, how big would that be?
It wouldn't be very large at all. It would probably sit on an ordinary desk with a lot of room to spare.
Now, in your book, you said that there's kind of a magic number of 20,000 hertz above which things seem to change in terms of the way electricity and magnetism seem to work. Would you explain that a little bit?
I didn't completely understand you.
Okay. You said that above 20,000 hertz, when you get a frequency above that.
Okay, the higher the frequency, the more often your off and on component is coming on. So each off and on component is added to the composite of the energy that's present. So if you're like 60 cycles, you're not getting very much. If you're like 400,000 cycles, you're really beginning to add up. And when you go up to about a million, the curve on that type of thing is about a 90 degrees slope, I guess, when you get up to about 200,000, and then when you go above that, it goes to almost straight up. It's infinite from then on.
So is this obeying the square law that you said in your book?
Say again, please.
Is the output proportional to the square of the frequency? Is that the concept that you're talking about here?
Yes, whenever the frequency goes up to a certain level, the energy is infinite. It's you're basically plugged into the universe, I guess you might say.
Now, is it necessary that this high frequency be also at a very high voltage, or does it not?
Well, the voltage, of course, is a variable, but once you get up into the higher deals, in order for it to be useful, you have to bring it back down down to pulsating DC, and then you can change it to 60 cycle or whatever else you want. Because at high frequency and high voltage, which is the basic idea, you don't have good control of it, and you have to change it to something which you can control better.
Okay, now, also in your book you mentioned about this magnetostrictive rod at one point.
Yes, magnetostrictive rods. Okay, the curious thing about electricity is the fact that whenever you have magnetostrictive materials, the resistivity becomes enormous. And basically it's like when you, I can't think of what I want to say just now, but it's playing a trick on materials, and it's the exact opposite of anything that would conduct electricity.
Okay, now when you put a field around one of these rods, it in effect...
The fact it doesn't conduct electricity, it becomes a perfect conductor for magnetic fields.
Okay, so you put a magnetic field around one of these rods and it actually grows longer, right, by a little small dimension?
Say again, please.
When you put a field around one of these magnetostrictive rods, the rod
The
physically...
idea is to put the magnetic field there, and it's they talk about getting zero resistance or even more so. Well, in the case of magnetic stuff, you have this way beyond zero. It goes into the millions of times on the zero side, where if you did that electrically, you couldn't do it.
So the magnetic component...
It works just the opposite to the electrical.
So instead of having, as we would think of ohms resistance in something, you have actually an enhancement of the magnetic traveling through this rod?
Yes. The idea is to get make the magnetic field work for you.
Now, when the rod sort of, as I picture this rod, it goes through a cycle every time you change the field around it. It goes from...
Okay, that's your off and on component you were asking about. You have to have something that's breaking the circuit and alternately, and that's necessary in order to start the action.
Okay, and these rods can accept a very rapidly changing magnetic field?
Yes, they have enormous magnetic field. That's the reason for using them.
So when you pulse this rod and make it go through one cycle, it takes energy in and then it gives it back to you in a different form?
The idea is that you're taking something out which has some resistance to it, and you're putting it into a system where the negative resistance is almost infinite. And at that point, you're swinging the system around so that you're taking advantage of the negative resistance.
Okay, I'm beginning to piece this together a little bit here in my head.
By the way, those drawings are to give the general idea. They're not the absolute way to do it. That was the simplest way I could demonstrate it without getting overly complicated.
Okay, I understand that. That's part of the art of this whole process. Huh?
Yes. Everything I do, I try to simplify it as best I can, so it may look like I'm a fool, but actually I've been very careful to try to make it so people can understand it. If people don't understand it, it doesn't mean anything.
Are there other devices besides these magnetostrictive rods that make sense?
Actually, I have a system which I don't want to talk about very much, but I can take the magnetic field and convert it directly into energy without going through all these gyrations that we were talking about.
Can a simple air coil do that?
Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to tell you what happens without giving my secrets away. But I take an actual magnet, and just like it's a battery, and I take the energy directly from it, and the idea there is that the magnetic flux or magnetic field is embedded into the magnet, and when you take it out, it supplies itself immediately, so it always maintains the same level regardless of how much energy you take directly from it. So one of my inventions, which you don't know about, is a device which uses a magnet directly without any complications much, and takes the energy directly from it in any amount you might want.
Well, I've used up all of my questions. I don't have any more at this moment. So
I hope I answered them.
Well, you did. And I'm going to turn this over to another person here at the conference. Can you hold on a second?
Sure.
Does anyone else have any questions? Yeah, hold on, Don. Anybody else have any questions for Don? Yeah, I guess we have three more people.
How about an
I
address?
wouldn't think to have run out of questions just yet.
How about an address for the video and book that he was talking about from Adventures Unlimited?
He wants an address
Or somewhere.
Where the book can be purchased, Adventures Unlimited.
I didn't quite get it.
Phone number, address?
Say again, please.
One guy's asking where you can get the information for where you can purchase your book.
Where can you purchase books and things?
Yeah, from Adventures Unlimited.
Actually, this Adventures Unlimited thing will probably have some of them very shortly. They'll be in a CD-ROM form, where an Adobe format, PDF format, and it's a very nice thing. I have several copies of it here just now when I did the scanning on it, and we're working on some way to make multiple copies so that more people can have it.
Okay, yeah, we can get the address after for Adventures Unlimited. I have another guest here that asked you a question.
Hi, Don. This is John Druid. I'm from Ohio.
Yes.
My question is for the experimenters that are here today. Do you have anything that you can offer to us that would be something that we could build that would give us proof of concept?
I heard the part concept, and I didn't get everything else. You have to kind of shout at me a little bit.
I was asking if you have anything that the experimenters here today could build that would show proof of concept of your device.
Okay, I understand your concern, and I understand that this is normal, it's a healthy question, and I appreciate it a great deal, but all along in my experiments, I've been irreligious as far as proof of concept and other things, and it sort of gets in the way when you have a lot of people wanting to argue about things. So in order to get work done and get things accomplished, I've not intended for it to be disrespectful in any way, but I do have all the backup that anyone who knows what they're doing would have. I have tons of it. I just haven't published any of it, or haven't been inclined to want to get in arguments with people over it. Hello?
Okay, thank you, Don.
Did that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two more left, I think. There's a lady that has come to interpret for a gentleman that's here. He has just a couple questions.
Sure.
Hello.
You kind of shout at me so I can hear you good.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm just an interpreter for someone that comes from São Paulo, Brazil, and he wants to know how he can get in contact with you because he has written sometimes and you never replied to his emails. He's using an address Donem Earthlink. I don't know, do you have an email that works?
I heard about half of what you said there. I know you're speaking high, but for some reason I didn't get my ear tuned up right.
Okay. Do you have an email you normally...
You have any what?
An email address that you...
Oh, my email address, surely, is DONSM1 at earthlink.net.
DON?
Yeah, DON1 at earthlink.net. And if you haven't seen my website, it's Alt Energy, ALTENERGY -PRO.com. And it's in over 2,000 different systems around the world, so you can get it anywhere.
Okay. And also, we've heard you have a representative in Brazil. I wonder if you have his number. Or can I get that in the website?
I heard part of what you said. If I did what?
You have a representative in Brazil.
Brazil?
Yeah.
Yes, I have. I get emails from dozens of people in Brazil. As a matter of fact, I have business connections there.
Okay. You have any representative that you could give me a number of?
Senator Teixeira, do you know him?
No. No, I don't
He's
know.
one of the major senators in southern part of Brazil, and he's my business partner along with the Russian government.
Okay. Sergio Teixeira?
Teixeira.
Okay.
Yes, I can't spell it just right. It's TX.
No, it's no problem the spelling, but do you know how can I get a hold of him?
Say again, please.
Do you have a number or?
Phone number?
Yeah.
I do, but I don't have it where I can get it to you just now. I talk to thousands of people around the world all the time, and he's just one real good friend. I've been in Brazil and did my presentations for the Brazilian Energy Department and other people.
Okay.
I also happen to speak Portuguese.
Okay. Você fala português?
I couldn't compreende que dice.
diga para ele que esse e-mail eu já conheço e o website eu já conheço. Eu nunca consegui uma resposta dele.
É que eu acho que você escreveu errado.
Não, não é. É que é parecido. É esse mesmo.
Can you hear me okay?
Don,
I was with Petrobras for a number of years out of Rio de Janeiro, and I was the person that Minas Gerais, when they had their first petroleum engineers graduate, I was the person that took them on and taught them the oil business.
okay. So the person that I'm being interpreter for, he's saying that he wrote you a couple of times and you never answered him back. So he wonders if there is another way, a better way to get in contact with you instead of the email. Yeah.
Senator Bashir has email, and I get quite a few emails from Brazil, sometimes 3 or 4 a day.
Okay. Do you
It works beautifully. I get from Tokyo almost every day several, and I get from the Philippines and from China and Russia, and heaven knows where.
okay? And you always reply to them or not?
Say again,
Do
please.
you always reply to them or not?
It's difficult to answer them. Give you an idea, I was out of the office here 2 days, and when I came back, I had 500 emails.
I understand that.
And I'm trying to figure out a way to answer them so that I don't, people don't think I'm ignoring them. It's not that I don't answer them, because I look at every one of them.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have, I think one or two more, Don.
Say again?
I think we have 1 or 2 more.
Okay.
Good morning, Don. My name is Warren Opine. I really appreciate.
Yes, kind of shout out a little bit so I can
Okay.
be sure to hear you.
I'm from Minnesota. We really appreciate.
Thank you. I'm real happy to try to respond.
My question is for your magnetostriction rod. I believe, if I remember the diagram, it was similar to an auto transformer in resonance.
Okay, I'll tell you what that is. That's the basic thing that's used by the submarines for their sonic system. It's identical materials and the wiring diagram and everything else. So when you have a submarine and you're listening for like 50 miles away, and it comes back and you pick up the energy and you can see what's out there. It's the same energy system that the submarines use.
Oh, what frequency works better? Because I mean, different.
Frequency?
Yeah.
It's magnetostrictive material, which I would gather that the frequency is probably about 50,000 cycles per second.
Okay. Yet in your book,
Depending on the chemical composition of the particular material rod, I might tell you that stainless steel rod works magnificently.
would this be a hollow stainless steel rod then, or solid, or?
Stainless steel has a dielectric component in it, and it's very sensitive to magnetic things, but not very sensitive to electrical.
In the latest issue of Faraday Labs magazine, they do a time machine experiment, and they use magnetostrictive material. And I just thought that was...
Basically, depending on the size of the object and how you're going about it. It works just like a big Tesla coil, so to speak. The mechanics of it, or what's happening, is related to the one coil and the two coil and the Tesla coil.
I guess that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do we have any more questions here?
One more.
Okay, I guess we have one more question, Don.
Okay. Okay, let me get your shot at me a little bit.
Okay, this is Alexander Peterson.
Yes.
What I'd like to have from you.
Hello.
Yeah, I would like for you to be so kind if you would do this.
Well, I intended to be there, and I was hell-bent on it, and I had everything set up accordingly, and my doctor thinks that I'm still unstable, which I don't think so, and so I yielded to him, and that's why we're doing this, I guess.
Well, what it is I wanted to ask you was, the gentleman that's from India, that you had his phone number, I would like to talk to him. He was working on energy.
Yes.
Hello.
Good afternoon, I guess.
But I would like for you to send me or email me the phone number.
If you want to email me, I think the lady got it while ago. I can give it to you again if you need it.
Okay, I can give you my email if you like.
I'm paralyzed on the right side, and I can't, I can respond to the computer, and I can work emails and things off of the computer, but as far as being able to write, my right-hand side is paralyzed.
Okay, well perhaps your secretary, or is it your wife that could send it?
Hold on a moment. See if I can find. I have to go look for her. She's somewhere around here, but I was hoping that she would stay handy. But if you'll send me an email, I'll try to respond. What I'll do, I'll just turn it around and put a response with the email you sent me.
That will be fine. That's all I had to add for you. That's all.
Yes, hold on a moment. Somebody's here and can take down an email if you want.
Okay, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
USI Trinity TRINITY at hotmail.com. Hotmail.com.
Okay, just to make sure that you send me an email, which you have my address, and I'll try to respond to you. I think we goofed up on our copying it down here, so that's bad. I know that this is your personal email, because I've used it before, but I get so much clutter background going on and other people and such that I tend to lose things.
Okay, well, I appreciate it then, and I will be in touch.
Okay, I appreciate it very much, and you guys have a nice day.
Yeah, God bless you.
Thanks, Don, and I hope you get well. And
I'm not too bad considering my age and everything. The arm's the only thing that's still not working right, and it's coming around.
well, maybe we'll see you next year. And stay well, Don. And
I'll make it a point to be there.
okay,
You'll take care now.
we'll stay in touch. That's Don Smith. Thank you very much.